Hello out there, this is Polish Pete out on the water today. My favorite place to be. And we're doing a bunch of Texas rig flipping today. So we're fishing in the grass all day long, and it's been a tough bite trying to get them to go. So I've been trying about a bunch of different tactics and techniques to try and get them to go. These fish have had a ton of pressure lately, a lot of tournaments on this body of water. It's been getting beat up a lot, and the fish are in a post-spawn pattern. And a lot of the fish in this lake will stage on top of curly leaf pondweed, which burns off here in the month of June. And then the fish will get into different vegetations such as coontail or milfoil later, and those vegetations tend to get good spots that are easier to break down, where it'll canopy and the fish can get underneath that. And basically at that point you're using different size weights, different style baits to try and figure out what those fish are keying in on that day. But right now we'd like to take a second and talk to you about some setups for Texas rig fishing. Most versatile rod and reel on the market, or rod size on the market today, in my opinion, and I think by most of the rod manufacturers out there, is a 7.3 medium heavy, 7 foot to 7'3" medium heavy fast action rod. That'll get the job done for most applications you want to do. If you're fishing offshore, if you're fishing around vegetation, heavy cover, anything like that, the 7.3 medium heavy will get you by in a pinch for any of those situations. So if you're looking to be versatile with your flipping and pitching setup, you want to look at that like 7.3 medium heavy, 7 foot, 7.1, 7.2. They kind of confuse you with the size a little bit, but think of that 7 foot to 7.3 as being your all-around rod. That medium heavy power is perfect power for fishing braided line straight to your bait, not having to worry about open up hook eyes, or open up hook points, I should say, bending hooks out, anything like that. Now there's situationally where you need a much heavier rod and reel than this for flipping and pitching. That's when you get into reeds and pad stocks, matted vegetation, things like that. When you're going, my rule of thumb is typically when I go to 3/4 of an ounce or bigger, I'm going to go to a rod that's over that 7.3 in length, to like a 7.6 all the way up to an 8-footer, to a heavy power rod. That way I can fish those bigger weights, bigger lines, and not have to worry about not being able to get that fish through that cover and back out. Like I said with this one here, this happens to be a 7.3 medium heavy. I'm currently running straight braid on this one. It was just working for me a little better than running a fluorocarbon leader on it. But that's why I like the versatility of a medium heavy, is I can go to a fluorocarbon leader on this braided line, and anytime you're running braided line, you can almost power up your rod a half power because that line has zero stretch to it. So braided line, I like to run a rod that's a little bit more forgiving. I like to picture it a half power down. So if this being a medium heavy, it's a heavy action rod to me once I put braided line on it, and I can run bigger weights and things of that nature. When I go to straight fluorocarbon, and I'm running weights now, the biggest I'll run on straight fluorocarbon for me on a lighter power rod is going to be lighter, meaning medium heavy and down, is going to be about a ½ ounce to maybe 5/8. I've been playing around with 5/8 a bunch, not seeing a big difference. So ½ ounce, we'll call it. Straight fluorocarbon. I run a faster action rod than I typically would with braided line with fluorocarbon, so the tip of the rod is super fast. I can get a hook set in them quick, because even though this is low stretch line, and I know a lot of you learn about fluorocarbon, you hear it's slow stretch. It is low stretch. It is not no stretch. So there is stretch in fluorocarbon line. So I want my hook to get penetration very quickly when I'm running this fluorocarbon style setup. I'm going to run a rod with a really fast tip on it, and a little bit more power than typically I fish with just straight braided line, because the stiffer the rod, the faster I can get that hook penetration with fluorocarbon in them. So I still run a medium heavy rod, but just like a lot of different rod manufacturers, bend the rod, see what's got more power. This happens to be a BLX right here from Dio, and this one's rated as a medium heavy, but it's much stiffer than the other medium heavy rods I've got. And the tip's way faster. So I can run a high-end EWG style hook, which is a style hook I like to run. This one here happens to be an Ichikawa hook, and this hook is razor sharp. So I can get that hook point in a fish with fluorocarbon without having to run a big giant heavy rod, and my rod stays more versatile that way as well. So if you're looking to pick out the right rod, line, and reel for flipping, higher speed gear ratio reels, try and find a reel that's got an aluminum frame. You don't want those carbon frames on a flipping reel. It'll bend up and get mushy on you when you're trying to set the hook in heavy cover and really torque on the reel handle. I don't prefer the super high speed reels. I used to. That used to be the standard, running 8 1-to-1 and up in speed and reels, but you lose a lot of power. I've had much better luck bumping back down into that 7-speed gear ratio. It's still plenty fast, but I can actually turn that handle when I've got a fish pinned up. If you don't have that issue turning the handle on a super high speed reel, then speed's your friend. Get a faster gear ratio reel. And once again, like I said, when you're talking Texas rigging, think 7-foot medium heavy and up from there. Don't think below that. Think 7-foot. That length gives you leverage. The medium heavy power gives you versatility. But as soon as you go into those bigger weights and heavier vegetation, start growing that rod in length and in power. So go to that 7.6 and up in heavy power. So that's what I got for you as far as picking out a rod, reel, and line and all that for Texas rig fishing. We'll put some suggestions below here. And in the meantime, go catch them.